The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
When I wake up, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who wakes up next to you. When I go out, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who goes along with you. If I get drunk, well, I know I'm gonna be.
Oklahoma does exactly what everyone expected the Sooners to do, and that is just lay waste to Kent State. The Golden Flashes go down by a final score of 44-0 in Norman on Saturday. Welcome to the Sooner Nation podcast. Look, I know it was Kent State. I know it is the worst opponent on Oklahoma's 2025 schedule. But all you can do is play the teams that are in front of you. And unfortunately for the Flashes, that they were one of those teams. Caleb, let's just, as we start this breakdown here on the Sooner Nation podcast, here's what I want to know. I've got so many thoughts. I was really all over the place when I sent you kind of our talking points for this episode. But tell me, what is you look at 4 quarters of dominant football. What's the main thing? What's the biggest thing that you're taking away from this game on Saturday?
I really got 2. The first one being Oklahoma has a field goal kicker. Tate Sandell was excellent. 3 for 3 for field goals, longest being 55. I believe he had a 52 as well. And then 5 for 5 extra point. Coming to later on in the season where you get Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Alabama, being able to rely on him is going to be key. And I know we kind of didn't really know what he was going to be. I feel like Saturday we know we have a pretty dang good kicker. And the second being, I saw a lot of people overreacting. But the second thing is, I took away, I feel like Hawkins can beat Texas. I know people look at his stats, and they're not flashy. 14 for 24, 162 yards. But he had 4 total touchdowns. And I get the offense didn't have, explosive amount of yards. But one thing we got to take in consideration is how good Isaiah Sategna was returning punts.
Right.
I mean, he averaged almost 20 yards per punt return. We had a short field basically the entire game. And so those yards, when you look at it as, we're starting plus side territory almost every single drive, those yards kind of look a lot better.
Yeah, that's a really good point about the special teams and the good field position and just the way they play defense and everything, because you look at, and I know I did it a lot going into the game, talking about the number of rushing yards Florida State had and the number of total yards Texas Tech had when you're comparing like opponents to this Kent State team. But Oklahoma really stood out in special teams. And I love, because you obviously have no access to my notes, but you mentioned Tate Sandell, you mentioned Michael Hawkins, and you mentioned special teams. And those are all things that I want to talk with you about and all across Sooner Nation and get feedback on, because here's the biggest takeaway I took from this game, Caleb. And I really want to know your opinion after I tell you this. That my main takeaway is that John Mateer is not playing against Texas. I watched this game. I watched 4 quarters of football, and my thought was this. Nope, he's not playing. He is not playing against Texas. And here's the reason why I say this. Number one, incredibly vanilla with the offensive game plan. They didn't show a lot in terms of pass protections from Michael Hawkins, and they didn't really let Michael Hawkins cook in ways that we know he's capable of. It was just kind of a straight up, here's what we're going to do. Nothing special, because we don't need to do anything special to beat Kent State. They played this game offensively like they did not want to give Texas any film on Michael Hawkins. And I know the immediate argument to this is no. They have film on Michael Hawkins because you can look at the 4 games he played in last year. He started this game against the Longhorns in the Cotton Bowl last year. But we all agree, not the same Michael Hawkins and absolutely not the same offense. And they did not want to put anything out there that would give Texas time to prepare for him. And if you're the Chipotle tortilla presser is telling you, oh, Mateer's playing and all this confident that he's playing, then why not just let Michael Hawkins ball out in that one game he gets to start this year? And the answer is John Mateer's not playing. And they're keeping Michael Hawkins close to the vest because I agree. I think he can beat Texas. But I think what we saw on Saturday is not what we're going to see in the Cotton Bowl this coming Saturday. What do you think about that?
I'm not ruling out John Mateer yet. Simply, I mean, it's kind of the way he carried himself Saturday. To me, was not somebody who knew they weren't going to play in arguably one of the biggest games. We don't know what exactly his plans are for next season, but if you're a Sooner, you want to play against Texas. And to me, the way he carried himself, the way he was acting on the sidelines, I'm not going to completely rule him out yet. But I do agree that keep it vanilla, just in case, A, like you said, John Mateer can't go, and it is the Hawkins show. Or B, it's not a total out of the realm of possibility that Mateer starts that game, but just can't finish.
No, that's a good point, and that's a good angle to take into this conversation. I just don't think it's going to happen. I just the way I was looking at it, I just don't think it's going to happen. So let's hope you're right, but for the sake of this conversation, let's pretend that I'm right. Did we see enough from Michael Hawkins to be comfortable moving forward?
I did. Again, I know a lot of people weren't happy with the way he played. I understand that he had some terrible throws, but first start back of the season, shaking some of that rust off. Really, the first action he's seen all season. I know he got thrown in there against Temple, but I don't have exactly his stats pulled up again in front of me. But I know he only had like 4 or 5 throws in that game, so it's not like he has seen a lot of action this season. So and like you said, he only had 9 rushes. And I know a couple of those were sacks. Against Texas, his legs are going to be a bigger factor than what they were against Kent State. The design rollouts are going to be a bigger factor than what we saw against Kent State. So I definitely think going on both what we saw from Hawkins and what we saw from this defense all season long, this Texas game is not unwinnable.
Yeah, let's talk about composure. Based on what I was able to calculate, he started with 11 of 15 for passing. Now, obviously a terrible overthrow to Keontez Lewis, which I want to ask you a question about that. I'm going to come back to that here in a minute. A terrible overthrow that gets Lewis. Lewis gets injured on that play. But even with that in account, 11 of 15 to start for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's in the first half. And the Sooners built a 23-0 lead. I really kind of feel like, again, I want to go back to you played this game. I played this game many, many years ago. It's hard to stay focused. And even as a coach, at that point, you're up 23-0 at the half. You're like, now we're going to try some things. And you remember being in those meetings, Caleb. You remember being in the halftime locker room with a big lead, and your coach is like, okay, this is where we're going to work on some techniques. This is where we're going to work on some things and some wrinkles, that we need to be confident in, right? And I think that kind of adds to the I don't want to say lackluster. I mean, it was not an entertaining game, but I just don't feel like there was anything there for me to be super, super concerned in terms of his throwing ability.
Yeah, and I'm not disagreeing with you at all. The only thing I could see was he did have some just wide open receivers that he just sailed the ball on.
Sure.
But again, that comes down to kind of shaking that rust, getting those nerves out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
a lot of people, when I've talked about this on Twitter, a lot of people are like, well, how's he going to hold up against in the Cotton Bowl? He did it last year. Let's not forget that. I get it that it was not a great game, but that wasn't necessarily all on Hawkins. The game plan was terrible. That offense was terrible. And so, yes, I have a lot of confidence in Hawkins to be able to go win next weekend and get a win.
Okay, so 3 touchdowns through the air. You mentioned his running, 33 rushing yards, and then another touchdown on the ground. They said something on the broadcast. I wanted to get your take on it, that he could be a more dangerous running quarterback than John Mateer is. Did you hear them say that, and what is your thought?
It's hard because they're different style of runners. John Mateer is more of a Jalen Hurts up the middle power run, to which Hawkins is more, I'm not going to run through you, I'm just going to outrun you, like we saw with Kyler Murray. We saw that last season with his first drive as a starting quarterback for the Sooners. He takes it, I think, close to 60 yards to the house against Auburn. He has the speed to where if he gets into the open, good luck catching him. And so it's hard to say who's more dangerous, because in the red zone, I'm giving that props to Mateer because he can just run through people. But given open space, I'm giving that nod to Hawkins because he has that elite speed.
You know what my favorite part was about Michael Hawkins and his performance on Saturday?
What?
0 turnovers. I think that's the most important thing that we're probably not talking about. It's the first game of the season where Oklahoma doesn't turn the ball over. And I think that's something that, they preached to him. And I know you had a problem with the first touchdown pass. Some other people had a problem with that first touchdown pass. But I see that as a different angle. I mean, I see that he's making a play. He's got field vision. He sees Sategna wide open down there. Yeah, there's guys in the area, but he can get that ball to Sategna. It was a jump ball that was never contested because he put it there in time to beat the defenders who were close by. And everyone's, somebody else that's intercepted. Maybe, but maybe also he doesn't make that play. He doesn't try that against somebody else. Maybe that ball instead goes up into the stands. I saw from him intent on taking care of the football. And that was my absolute favorite part.
Yeah, 100%. He did a great of not coughing up the ball. I know the last time we saw him as a starter, he had 3 turnovers in the first 3 drives. And so it's definitely something that is probably in the back of a lot of Sooners fans' minds is how is he going to do with the ball? And, I felt like there's sometimes he held onto the ball a little bit too long, but he took care of the ball and he made some great throws as well.
Now, you mean the last time we saw him as a starter in a regular season game, because he did start also the Armed Forces Bowl.
I forget about
I know exactly what you're talking about with the South Carolina game.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that, the bowl game. That's my bad.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I just want to make sure I'm understanding clearly what you're saying. Okay, well, we're gonna get into one true or false question right after this.
Wish you could become a morning person? You know the type, up before the sun, early morning runs, first one to the office with donuts and a smile. How do they do it? Easy. With the new Galaxy Watch 8, sleep tracking and personalized insights from Samsung Health help you improve so you can wake up to a whole new you. One who, dare I say it, skips the snooze? It's possible. Train your sleep with Galaxy Watch 8. Learn more at Samsung.com. Requires compatible Samsung Galaxy phone, Samsung Health app, and Samsung account.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
What's up, everybody? This is the Sooner Nation podcast. He's Caleb. I'm Matt. We're breaking down Oklahoma's 44-0 win over Kent State on Saturday. Caleb, the Sooners are 5-0. That's incredibly important. First shutout win of since 2023. Second shutout win since Brent Venables took over this program. But I mean, I think the big thing is when you're talking about stats and all that stuff coming away from the weekend is you got to stick with that 5-0, right? Because I mean, this is not something that they did in 2024. That fifth game didn't come until they played Maine late in the season in that final non-conference game. So have we seen enough to say this team is improved, that this is, I know for sure we can say it defensively, but all around, is this the best team that Brent Venables has had so far?
It's hard to say the best team because that 2023 team was still pretty good. I think I need to see at least one more game against a elite team. Auburn and Michigan were good. I really want to throw out the elite word for Texas. I think it's going to come when we play Ole Miss to kind of see where exactly this team is. They also haven't really been tested on the road. That's going to come in 2 weeks when we go to South Carolina.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that this team has that capability to being the best team that Brent Venables has. But not only that, but one of the best teams we've seen probably since 2017 with Baker Mayfield's last season.
So you're telling me you don't think the Temple game was an adequate road test?
No, not at all. I think there's I think there's more Sooner fans in attendance than Temple fans.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think we're ready to say better than 2023 just yet. I don't think we're ready to say best of the Brent Venables tenure. I think if you beat Texas and you go 6-0, yeah, then you start talking about that. Especially if you beat Texas with Michael Hawkins, which brings me to something I want to do special just for you because of scheduling and so forth. You were not able to get with me before the game on Thursday night's podcast where I normally do true or false. And we obviously didn't have a podcast to preview for the bye week. So it's been a hot minute. So I'm just going to throw one out here and you tell me your thoughts. True or false? This season, the Sooners are going to go as far as the defense takes them.
I'm going to say false because the defense has shown, even last season, that they're capable of taking them so far, but the offense has to be able to do stuff when the defense hands them opportunities. And that's one thing we didn't see a year ago. That's one thing we have seen this season. So if you want to, yes, I feel like this defense can take them as far to almost to that point, but this offense has to be the one that kind of carries them over that line. Because if you have a game where, like Tennessee last year, where the defense gives you the ball at the 3-yard line, and then you just cough it up the next play, this defense can only take you so far. I'm trying to think of how many touchdowns we had last season. I think it was like 3 or 4 defensive touchdowns.
Yeah.
You had
the two kip sixes, and then you had the Missouri game, and then you had the safety against Houston. Those are the 4 scores I can think of from last year.
You had Grayson Holton had a scoop and score against LSU. But this defense is good, but they're not going to be able to outscore offenses. So these offenses, our offense has to be able to take them over that finish line.
Let me tell you why I disagree with you. I mean, I do agree that offense you gotta produce, and I think this offense is clearly better than anything we saw at any point last season. I don't think they're up to the 2023 standards just yet. I think they could have got there and will get there once Mateer's back and healthy, hopefully. But let me just throw some defensive stats out here, and let's talk about why we're seeing things from this defense that we've not seen in a long time in Sooner Nation. And the reason why I might disagree with you on this, other than just playing devil's advocate, is that I think full-fledged, I believe that the defense is the identity of this team. And if your defense is doing what they've done through 5 games, you're going to be in a position to win every game. But if your defense doesn't do what they've done through 5 games, you have no chance. Because the offense is not going to win a shootout with Ole Miss. The offense is not going to go to Tuscaloosa and carry the day. The offense is not going to go to Knoxville. But if the defense does these things, then you'll be in position to win. That's why I would disagree with you. Let's talk about how suffocating they are against the run. 17 rushing yards. I know it's Kent State, but this has been every game this season. They have just dominated against the run. 17 rushing yards on 33 carries. That's insane. That's roughly half a yard per carry. And it's a third straight game. Because for all those people that want to cry, Kent State. Okay, it's the third straight game, Caleb. The third straight where they've held an opponent under 70 yards. And when you talk about, and anytime you want to jump in here and say something, please do, but I'm going to give you a couple more things. The disruptive defensive front, this is what I'm talking about when I say things that we've not seen in Norman in a long time. So Saturday against Kent State, you've got 5 sacks, 13 tackles for loss. And the defensive line accounted for all 5 of the sacks and most of the tackles for loss. So you've got depth and rotation on display there. And now you finally add to it. You get the turnovers. It's the first time this year they forced turnovers. It's the first time this year they won the turnover battle. But you see the strip sack by R. Mason Thomas. You got to think that's not the only one we're going to see this season. And then Grayson Halton returns it for the scoop and score. And I'm just going to pause here, and then I'm going to let you talk. But I just want to say how much I love the fact it was Grayson Halton who got the scoop and score. I mean, he was so close to getting that batted ball in the end. And I feel like he's been close on a couple of other things. But, man, I was really happy to see him be the guy who gets to score it. But that's why I would disagree with you, because what these guys are doing up front, Caleb, they're just going to get better. They're just going to get better. And you're going to look, if you're an opponent, you either, in my opinion, have to have fresh bodies to rotate on your offensive line, or you're going to middle of the third, into the fourth quarter, you're going to have nothing left. And we talked about the body language from Auburn's offensive line. Those guys are just getting beat. They're just getting beat every play, and they know there's nothing they can do to not get beat. And I mean, you're at Texas and you're in the film room after what just happened against Florida, and now you got to face another dominant defensive front. How do you adjust? Tell me, you play offensive line. How do you adjust after you just got smashed by Florida? Now, how do you adjust to Oklahoma?
I mean, it's hard to adjust to a defensive line like this. You know, you talked about depth in the rotation. Do you happen to have the defensive stats pulled up in front of you?
I don't.
Okay. So you talk about how just disruptive David Stone was. David Stone was living rent-free in that backfield.
Right.
But there's 2 names that are not on this list. Jaden Jackson and Dominic Williams did not play.
Right.
They were arrested, and this defensive line did not miss a beat. Again, I get that it's Kent State, but David Stone has been doing this all season. It's just mind-blowing that we legitimately have 4 not just power 4, but elite power 4 starters rotating in on our 1 and 2 deep for the defense, the middle. And then I get that you take out R. Mason Thomas and you take out Marvin Jones. There is a little bit of a dip on the defensive ends. But one thing that I just loved seeing was how big PJ and I'm blanking on his name, the kid from Tulsa was.
Daniel Okoye,
thank you. And Danny finally had his. I get it. It's Kent State, but for a redshirt freshman, he still balled out, and
Yeah.
I'm excited to see. I'm hoping this game kind of launches him with that confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I don't know if you heard on the broadcast, the casters talk about is Oklahoma has forced more punts than points allowed.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
when they said that, I was like, okay. Then I really thought about that. I'm like, that is a super impressive stat.
Yep.
At the beginning of the game, we had forced 37 punts to 36 points allowed. And now I think
Mm-hmm.
we're sitting around 44 punts and 36 points allowed. That's just mind blowing to me.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's just that's the whole point of what I'm saying. With if this defense continues to do, how do you stop them? I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm legitimate question. How do you stop David Stone, Jaden Jackson, Marvin Jones, R. Mason Thomas? How do you stop them? Because if you work on just those four guys, then you got to worry about blitzes. You know, it is a nightmare for opposing offensive coordinators. Here's a crazy stat as well. I think it's going to be mind blowing or shocking for anybody. But the last two games, Caleb, the last two games, 14 quarterback sacks. Just in the last two games, and by the way, one of those opponents was a top 25 opponent at the time you played them. How do you prepare for that? And that's why I say that answer is true. They will go as far as the defense carries them. Because if the defense continues to bring that night in and night out, they will be in every game that will be in it, have a chance to win. But if the defense has an off night, that's when you're in a lot of trouble. Does that change your mind at all, or are you sticking to your guns?
I think I'm still going to stick with my original answer. And it's not because I disagree with you, but it's we saw this defense last year do that night in and night out, but the offense being the one that causes us
Right.
to lose games. You go back to the South Carolina game. Outside of the first quarter, we outscore South Carolina by 10
Mm-hmm.
points, but the offense basically gave them 21 points. You go to the Missouri game. I thought we had that game won.
Yeah.
And then just two just mind-blowing turnovers change that from, okay, hey, we're going to win this game to, hey, we still have a shot to win this game to, we're losing this game all in the
Mm-hmm.
span of 2 minutes. So, yes, I agree with you that this defense is going to be the main reason we're in these games. But I feel like 9 out of 10 times it's going to be the offense reason why we are going to be able to win the games.
All right. Well, I mean, I think maybe we might be saying the same thing from two different perspectives, but I mean, I love you got to at least love where they are right now, right?
100%.
Okay, so let's talk about some other guys that probably we haven't mentioned enough in our coverage this this season. And let's start with our man Isaiah Sategna, who you know, two scores, 97 punt return yards, 192, I think, all-purpose yards. There's varying sources here that I couldn't. I saw some that said 172, and somewhere there's another 20 yards for 192. So we're gonna say between 172 and 192 all-purpose yards. But I mean that's his best total yardage, whichever number you go by, in a single game. We were all excited about a healthy Deion Burks, and I still am. But Satini he's the top guy, right? He's got to be the top guy in this receiving core.
I mean, it's hard to say that he's not the top guy for the performance he had, but I feel like the main reason why we're seeing guys like Isaiah Sategna or even Jaron Kanik have these games that they're having is because of how much attention Burks brings.
Yeah.
He's the number one receiver on this team, But because of how good he is, he's going to always be the guy that's double covered or bracketed to where these guys like Isaiah Sategna can have these bigger games.
Okay. I mean, I agree. I think of I don't think Burks is the vertical threat that Sategna is. I think Burks is more of a underneath possession guy, which is great. I love that because it lets him most of the times catch the ball in space. But I think back to the big catch against Auburn. I think back to the jump ball type throw that we had just last Saturday against Kent State, and those at this moment, those those belong to Sategna. Now Giovanni Gibson's back, and he's going to only get more healthy and more legs under him, and he's a big body guy as well, which gives you the potential to stretch it on both sides of the field. And really, I think that reverses at that point where you stretch the field with those guys, and then it frees up space underneath for Koenig and Burks on underneath routes because they're going to draw man-on-man coverage, and those guys are hard man-on-man. So I love the options, even with Keontae Lewis, which I want to come back to that now. Man, just obviously I'm older, right? I cannot tell you how many games I've been to inside that stadium. And I cannot tell you how many games I've watched on TV. Never have I ever seen something like that, where a player goes all the way into the brick wall. My question is this. I thought about it at the very time that it happened, and I almost texted you, but I was just really kind of more worried about Lewis. Do you remember the end zone color schemes?
Kind of, but not really.
Green grass with painted letters. I don't think he knew he was out of the back of the end zone.
The way that he was running and the way that he dove for the ball tells me he did not know where he was at on the field. And one thing that I've seen so many people arguing about is, should those back walls have padding? And I don't really know why so many people are getting upset that people are like, yeah, those back walls need padding. Again, I have watched games since 2006, almost 20 years. I have never seen something like that happen.
Right.
But now that it has happened, I do think, I know this is not really what your question was, but I do think Oklahoma needs to take that step to make that a little bit safer. And I don't think having padding on that wall would have saved him because he was going full speed when he dove, but it might have helped a little bit.
No, I agree, and it's one of those things where you don't think about it till you should have had it, right? When you're talking about that padding on the wall. But I ask you a lot about offensive line stuff because that's what you played. I was a receiver, and you know when you cross the goal line, and you know when you're in the end zone because typically it's a different color, and your peripheral vision comes into play a lot there. And so that I got 10 yards tops. He didn't know. Because he's full stride out the back of the end zone, and I think it was like, oh crap, why is there a cameraman there? And the good news is it looks like he's going to be okay. But gosh, that was such a scary thing. And let me just, because you mentioned Jaydn Koenig, I got to throw this at you as well. I don't know if you heard my podcast I did last week, but I was like, if you give me over under on Jaydn Koenig scoring with a half a touchdown, I'm taking the under just because I don't want to be the guy that jinxes him anymore. But we're going to say Caden Helms and Grayson Holton have scored touchdowns this year before Jaydn Koenig. How insane is that?
It's coming. I know it's coming. But I hope it's. And the thing that, again, you open this box, the thing that frustrates me with him not scoring is if he has 1 to 2 touchdowns, I think he's a front runner for the Mackey Award. I mean, he's leading the nation in tight end receptions, receiving yards. You throw in a couple of touchdowns, I think he's getting talked about a lot more than what he is already getting talked about a lot. But I think he gets thrown in that conversation of one of the best tight ends in the country.
And he's He's already surpassed Bauer Sharp's production from last year. So that's crazy. All right, we got 5 minutes left. Let me run through. I want to two things real fast. One, I just want to mention something that you've already mentioned: special teams. We talked about Sategna in the running game, our return game. You mentioned Tate Sandell. He was perfect: 49, 39, and 55-yard in field goals. He has, all of the PATs was just dead on. And it was I think it was the seventh longest field goal, the 55-yarder, tied for the seventh longest in Oklahoma history, I believe. Just that is a weapon. And then you got to talk about the punting aspect. It has been a long time when you look at the returning game, the punt game, and the place kicking. Been a long time. Been a long time since Oklahoma's been this good in special teams. And let's not forget, I'm pretty sure it's his first attempt of the season Tate Sandell missed. Right?
Yeah, I believe.
And do you remember we were all like, "Oh no!" Now look at us.
Yes, it was against Michigan too at a big moment. We're like, "Oh my goodness, here we go again." But after that, he's been really good.
Okay, final thing for me, Caleb. Torrey Blaylock, he paced the running back. I really wanted us to have a running back with over 100 yards. We didn't get it, but 78 yards from Torrey Blaylock on 15 carries. Jaydn Ott, 49 yards on 11 carries. I feel like he made his presence felt. He looked like he had a different pop to him, a different attitude in terms of confidence. And is it maybe health? And the reason I'm asking you this, because you get the final say now here on the podcast, the reason I'm asking you this, because I said Texas would tell the story. For me, that was my deadline. I see Blaylock 1, Ott 2, and then Javante Barnes being your third down guy moving forward. Am I putting too much stock in 49 yards on 11 carries?
I don't think so, because everything we were told from as soon as this kid got on campus that Ott was the real deal. Then he gets banged up, and then it was kind of a mindset issue. It's just not I believe it was Trace Ford had the same issue where he comes back from injury, gets injured again, and comes back from that. It took him a minute to find his identity again.
Mm-hmm.
Jaydn Ott had a fantastic, I think it was freshman season, all of last year. As it was very quick onto camp where he gets hurt again. So that mindset kind of got shifted. His mental kind of got a little scattered, and he's finally back. And, we saw him not running away from contact. We saw him kind of have that shifty movement. And I get, 11 carries for 49 yards is not ideal against Kent State. Mm-hmm. But a majority of his carries, I feel like, kind of came in a time where Kent State knew they were just going to run the ball, so they were stacking the box. Again, I'm not sold that Jaydn Ott, this is going to be going to thrust him into a number 1 or number 2 spot. But if we see the same production, we see the same kind of mindset he had against Kent State, against Texas, I am definitely I haven't spoke bad about Jaydn Ott yet. I've been kind of, we both said, Texas would tell us.
Right.
But, if he can come into this Texas game and show that he's a number 1, number 2 back, he's going to be on a lot of Oklahoma fans' good sides again. But if going into Texas, he kind of disappears again, then you're going to be like, you know what? You're going to see a lot of Sooner fans check out on him.
No, and that's me. If he's a no-show at Texas, I'm out. But I'm encouraged from what I saw. Speaking of Texas, it is Texas Hate Week. Heartland-sports.com is where you can find us on the internet. Thanks for listening to the Sooner Nation podcast. Do us a favor. Give us a like and a subscribe wherever you find your podcast. It helps us do this, and it helps us, it encourages us, right? Hopefully you're enjoying it. Have a great week, everybody. Sooners are 5-0. Hopefully 6-0 next week against the unranked Texas Longhorns. Boomer Sooner.
Bye.